Okay. Greetings, one and all. Age of Legends here, and we've made it to the fourth album of Metallica's discography. Of course, Master of Puppets being the final album to feature Cliff Burton, and Justice for All features the debut of his replacement, the very underrated Jason Newsted, who I will always defend as being a very talented musician and a man who was put into a spot that people should have known he was never going to fully fill and replicate. But in my view, Jason Newsted became his own man and became his own man, and he didn't need to be a Cliff Burton. Not everyone needs to be the person they're filling the spot in. They need to be their own person and put their own spin on things. And to me, in the time Jason Newsted was in Metallica, he put his own spin on things, and in his own way, great musician. But anyway, prior to Jason Newsted coming to the band, Metallica actually contemplated breaking up due to the loss of Cliff Burton. But, eventually they moved on. Well, they never fully moved on. The wound of Cliff Burton was still fresh, as this album was only released 2 years after Puppets. So, yeah, there's a lot of anger and a lot of resentment towards everything, and it's not by the fault of Jason Newsted. It's just how the environment with the band, what was going on with the band, and the big loss they suffered. And of course, I guess you could say when you hear Justice for All, you can kind of see that and feel that with the music and the lyrics. So let's waste no time and get started, shall we? We kick off with the opening track, Blackened, which is pretty much the only song that Jason Newsted contributed to this album. I like Blackened. Blackened is one of my favorite Metallica songs. Like Hit the Lights, like Battery, like Fight Fire with Fire. It has that slow build intro that builds up and builds up and builds up and builds up, and when it kicks in, it punches you right in the balls, and it's like it's time to go. And Blackened, politically charged song, pretty much about the destruction of Mother Nature. It says it. You can get that just by the lyrics itself. Blistering of Earth. Terminate its worth, deadly in a kite, kills what it might have been. So yeah, like I said, Justice is a very politically charged album, and the lyrics reflect that. And of course, the band has gone on record, specifically Lars Ulrich has gone on record as saying this was the CNN era of the band, and Justice for All is pretty much the CNN of heavy metal albums, which is kind of humorous. So, and we get to the actual song, and Justice for All. Not my favorite. My least favorite song on this album is and Justice for All. It's a fucking long song. It's song just, to me, I don't like the song for many variety of reasons. It's not a bad song. Again, I don't care for it, and one of the reasons why is it just drags on and drags on, and most of the time it's just like it feels like it's just droning on and just trying to find any excuse just to continue playing, and by the time this song is over, you're so emotionally drained from hearing it. You're just like, that song was ungodly long. I mean, but it has good lyrics. It has really good lyricism. Come on, justice is not, justice is raped, justice is gone, pulling his strings, justice is done, seeking no truth, winning is all, find it so green, so true, so real. Like, lyrically, and Justice for All is great. It's great. But, in terms of its length, it just drones on and drags on. The instrumentation and lyricism is fine, but just like the length, it just, that's another thing about And Justice for All. A lot of these songs are so long that it's just droning. It just like wears you out. It really, unless you're like, even if you're a diehard, it'll just wear you out. It's just a wear you out type of album. But I love it. After a while, you get used to it. But to a first time viewer, you'd be like, Jesus Christ, this doesn't want to end. But we get to one of my favorite songs in this album, which is the song "Eye of the Beholder," and I love this song. It has that fade-in intro, and to me, it's like very ferocious. It has a very almost like a we're gonna stand against you type of vibe, like we're coming for you type vibe. And and in the lyrics, you got something. It goes along the lines of independence limited, freedom of choice, choices made for you, my friend, freedom of speech, speech's words that they will bend, freedom with with their exception. Pretty much, the eye of the beholder is about censorship. It's like the government will censor what you say, and you're gonna have to deal with it. And it kind of like goes back to that whole freedom of speech thing, and how this is a very politically charged album. And Eye of the Beholder, I think, is one of the better songs at getting this point across. So nothing but good stuff for me. And then, in my view, we get the sequel to the unofficial sequel, the spiritual sequel to Disposable Heroes, which is the infamous or famous, the highlight, some would say, this album, the single of this album being the song simply known as "One." This song is pretty much about a soldier who is near death. The war, the battlefield has literally broken this man to the point where he's pretty much lost his entire body, like no limbs, no arms, no legs, just nothing, just completely a shell of a human being, and he's waiting death, wants death, and the music and the lyricism, to me, in this song, it's so dark and just so depressing. And then when you get to that last half of the song, where they go into like this 2-minute orchestra, it's just awesome. One, definitely deserves all the praise it gets. Great song. Not my favorite song. That goes to Eye of the Beholder. But let's press on. Then we get to the Shortest Straw. Not my favorite song. Not a bad song by any stretch of the imagination. I don't hear it that often, but when I do pop it in, I get into it. It's got a good rocking beat to it. Got some good music going on there. Some good lyricism. Something along the lines of "Suspicions is your name." Actually, yeah. Shortest Straw is not a song I listen to a lot, so I can't really do a lot of commenting on that. But if you like it, that's all good, because it's not a bad song. But song I do like, and probably my second favorite song, is "Harvester of Sorrow." I love this song. This song is pretty much the song you hear when you're ready to go psycho. And the lyrics reflect all that. I mean, just look, this opening verse right here. "My life suffocates, planting the seeds of hate. I've love turned to hate, trapped far beyond my fate. I give, you take, this life that I forsake. Been cheated of my youth, you turn this light to truth. Anger, misery, you'll suffer unto me, harvester of sorrow." Just right there. This is a song about somebody who is just fed up with everything. Works his 9-to-5 job, has to go home and deal with his kids and a nagging wife, and just one day wakes up, snaps, and just goes on a killing spree. That's what Harvester of Sorrow is all about, in my view. And if you want to interpret it, of course, I just hear the song because it's a fucking amazing song, and it's got a good, angry, dark rhythm to it. Dun, 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 dun. A very good drum intro. So Harvester of Sorrow, it's good shit. Then we get to the frayed ends of sanity. It's okay song. It's got that little Wizard of Oz thing going on in the beginning, where it's like, oh, yo. So that's all fine and good. But to me, like the actual song "Injustice for All," frayed ends of sanity just drags on and drones on and doesn't want to end. And it's like, okay, you could have cut at least 2 minutes off this song, and it would have been tolerable. It would have been fine. No, the same thing with the same thing with Injustice for All. And Justice for All runs about 9 minutes and 44 seconds. You could have easily cut 3.5 minutes of that song and cut it down to just like 5 minutes and change, and it would have been fine. But again, one of the things with Justice, these songs really do drone on. And and we get to the instrumental of this album, which is "To Live Is to Die," which is the final piece of music that Cliff Burton wrote in his and this song was originally supposed to be on Puppets, but due to time constraints, and they had to cut it. And of course, with his unfortunate passing as a tribute, and they were able to put this instrumental into the album. And to me, "To Live Is to Die" is probably my favorite of the instrumentals. Like it'll be "Live Is to Die," and then it'll be "Orion" right below it. Because I think "Live Is to Die" just has a lot of emotion to it. Like you can feel like the sadness in its intro, and you can feel the anger, and then there's this, like the way the song is done in layers. To me, you got that very sad intro, and then you got that anger, dum dum, bum 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 bum, and then it goes into a break where it's like. To me, that's kind of like reflecting on happy memories, but it's also very bittersweet because you'll no longer create the new memories. And to me, the music in that section symbolizes that. And then it goes back to being angry again, and then you get to hear like the last pieces of lyrics that Cliff Burton would have ever were to write. Which would write, and it just perfectly sums up this this whole album, and the song and the instrumental itself. So good instrumental. And finally, we get to Dyer's Eve. Dyer's Eve, like the actual song in Justice for All, and like The Shortest Straw, and like The Frayed Ends of Insanity, Dyer's Eve is not a song I listen to all the time, but it is a good song. It is a good metal track. It is a good song. You can go into the mosh pit and just fucking have a party. You know, raise the horns in the air and just be like headbanging your head off. You know, Dyer's Eve. Good closer. Not a song I listen to all the time, so I can't really do a whole lot of commenting on it. But in terms of like a general speaking of it, solid. So, in doing this, in doing this coverage of Injustice for All, I'm going to give it a solid. I'm going to give it an 8. I'm going to give it a 9. I give Justice a 9. Surprisingly enough, this is my second favorite album next to Master of Puppets. Like when it comes down to like how I would list the original 4 albums from the 80s, it'll be Puppets, Justice, Lightning, and Kill 'Em All. Justice to me is a very close second to Puppets. I like Justice. I like it a lot. It's a good album. It's a really good album. Take away all like the backstage stuff that was going on with Newsted, all the hazing and lowering of the bass. We're at the point where it's barely audible. And in this album, the bass line is very inaudible to the point of almost being non-existent, which is unfortunate because, like I said, Newsted's a very talented player. But again, this was the hazing that was going on with Newsted. And it was the band's coping mechanism of accepting the fact that Cliff Burton is gone and they're coming back. And of course, they're taking out their anger and their frustration on Jason, which was unfortunate. But all in all, on a technical standpoint, and Justice for All is actually a very complicated album. It has a lot of very complicated musical compositions, and the band even said themselves that they hardly play any of these songs except for one, because the songs they just drag on, and that's pretty much the main criticism I have, that these songs they just drag on and drag on and drag on, and they do start to get very wearing down on you, and it's to the point where it does start to drone, and that can get boring after a while. Just all you hear is droning and droning and droning, And who wants to hear droning and droning and droning? Unless it's like something, unless you're a band like, say, Mastodon, where that's the gimmick. But when you're a band like Metallica, you know, I expect more out of that. But yeah, as a close, this is 9 out of 10. Good album. If you are a fan of the original 4 albums, definitely hear this album. If you're just getting into Metallica, I'd say hear Puppets and then hear this, because this is a really good follow up to Puppets, and definitely worth all the praise. And to put a final note on this review, I am going to recite to you the lyrics. Not really lyrics, but the spoken word that is heard in To Live Is To Die. Don't kid yourself. To Live Is To Die is an instrumental. Whoever says differently, they don't know what you're talking about. But anyway, Cliff Burton's final words. When a man lies, he murders some part of the world. These are the pale deaths which men miscall their lives. All this I cannot bear to witness any longer. Cannot the kingdom of salvation take me home?